The founding members of The Who, Roger Daltrey, Pete Townshend, and John Entwistle, grew up in Acton, London, and attended the same grammar school. Townshend and Entwistle were school friends, though Pete had difficulty making friends in general, as he was often teased for his prominent nose. He spent most of his time playing a guitar given to him by his grandmother, Emma, for Christmas, teaching himself chords. Entwistle, who played the French horn in the school symphony orchestra, was also eager to learn guitar and pursued it as a self-taught musician. Together, the two friends formed a traditional jazz band called the Confederates, and even performed at the Congo Youth Club, run by the Acton Congregationalist Church. However, as rock and roll gained popularity, they quickly fell under its influence. Townshend was particularly inspired by Cliff Richard's debut single, Move It, and soon the Confederates disbanded. After high school, Entwistle shifted his focus from brass instruments to guitar, but struggled with his thumbs. After hearing Dwayne Eddy's guitar playing, he decided to switch to bass. Unable to afford one, he built his own at home, which caught the attention of Roger Daltrey. Daltrey, who was a year ahead of them in school, had moved to Acton from the working-class neighborhood of Shepherd's Bush. He struggled to fit in, eventually getting involved with gangs and rock and roll. Expelled at 15, he found work on a building site. By 1959, he was determined to turn his life around and formed a band called the Detours. Impressed by Entwistle's passion for music, Daltrey immediately invited him to join as the first member of his new band. Entwistle, in turn, remembered his school friend Townshend, who was studying at Ealing Art College, and brought him into the group. The Detours took a few years to fully establish themselves, partly due to Daltrey's authoritarian leadership. He frequently clashed with new members, insisted on creative control, and often changed his role in the band. By 1961, the lineup finally solidified. Daltrey became the lead vocalist, Townshend took over as the sole guitarist, Entwistle settled into his role as bassist, and semi-professional drummer Doug Sondom completed the group. Pete Townshend's mother helped book their early gigs, securing a spot for them as an opening act through promoter Robert Druce. The Detours were influenced by the bands they supported, including Screaming Lord Sutch, Cliff Bennett and the Rebel Rousers, Shane Fenton and the Fentons, and Johnny Kidd and the Pirates. The latter group had a significant impact on them, particularly their guitarist Mick Green, who played both rhythm and lead parts, a technique that Townshend soon incorporated into his own style. Meanwhile, Entwistle's bass playing evolved into a more melodic, lead-like role. In February 1964, the Detours discovered that another band, Johnny Devlin and the Detours, was already using the name. That night, Townshend and his housemate Richard Barnes brainstormed alternatives, focusing on humorous or attention-grabbing names, such as No One and the Group. Townshend favored The Hair, while Barnes liked The Who for its short, punchy sound. The next morning, Daltrey made the final decision. The Who was born. Unfortunately, the name change did not bring immediate success in the music industry. The Who were still searching for their style, their audience, and, most importantly, the right manager. Their first attempt was with Helmut Gordon, who quickly arranged an audition for them with Chris Parminter of Fontana Records. However, Parminter was unimpressed by the band's performance, particularly criticizing the drumming. Townshend, furious at the feedback, lashed out at Doug Sondom, threatening to kick him out of the band if he didn't improve. Unwilling to tolerate such treatment, Sondom chose to leave on his own. This departure led to a crucial turning point for the band. They invited Keith Moon, a drummer from Wembley who had been playing in bands since 1961, to a rehearsal. Moon immediately impressed them with his energy and enthusiasm, even breaking a bass drum pedal and tearing a drum skin during his performance. After playing a few more gigs with the Beachcombers, he decided to commit fully to The Who. With their lineup finally settled, the band turned their attention back to finding a manager. Peter Meaden took them under his wing and attempted to reshape them into a band that fit the mod movement in Britain. He changed their name to the High Numbers, dressed them in mod-style clothing, and wrote lyrics for both sides of their single Zoot Suit, I'm the Face. The melodies, however, were not original. Zoot Suit was based on Misery by the Dynamics, while I'm the Face was borrowed from Slim Harpo's I Got Love If You Want It. Despite Madden's efforts, the single failed to chart, and the band soon reverted to their original name, The Who. Determined to create a stronger image, they began experimenting with their stage presence. Daltrey started using his microphone cable like a whip, and would occasionally leap into the crowd. Moon developed his signature style of theatrically throwing drumsticks in the air mid-beat. Townsend, meanwhile, brought in his own flamboyant gestures, mimicking a machine gun with his guitar, jumping wildly on stage, playing with his signature windmill motion, and standing with his arms aloft to let his guitar create feedback, a stance that became known as the Birdman. In June 1964, during a performance at the Railway Hotel, Townsend accidentally smashed the head of his guitar against the venue's low ceiling. The crowd laughed, but instead of backing down, he furiously smashed the guitar completely, then grabbed another and continued playing. The following week, the audience eagerly anticipated a repeat of the spectacle. Moon, not one to disappoint, joined in by kicking over his drum kit. From that moment on, auto-destructive art became a defining feature of The Who's live performances. This unique style caught the attention of two aspiring filmmakers, Kit Lambert and Chris Stamp. They were searching for a young rock band to feature in their movie, and after attending a gig at the Railway Hotel, they were instantly captivated by The Who. Determined to help the band succeed, they took on the role of managers, and, much like Peter Meaden before them, made some significant changes. Recognizing Townsend's background in art school, they encouraged him to focus on songwriting, believing his creative vision could set the band apart. To make blonde-haired vocalist Roger Daltrey stand out, they had John Entwistle dye his light brown hair darker. They also refined The Who's musical direction, steering them toward a high-energy setlist of soul, rhythm, and blues, and Motown covers. This shift came with a bold new tagline, Maximum R&B. By late 1964, the changes began to pay off. The band caught the attention of American producer Shel Talmy, known for his work with the Kinks. Townsend, eager to attract Talmy's interest, wrote I Can't Explain, a track deliberately reminiscent of the Kinks' sound. Talmy attended a rehearsal, was impressed by what he saw, and quickly signed the band to his production company, securing them a deal with the US branch of Decca Records. I Can't Explain gained traction thanks to heavy airplay on pirate radio stations like Radio Caroline. At the time, pirate radio was crucial for emerging bands, as the UK had no commercial radio stations, and BBC Radio played little pop music. The Who's breakthrough came when they appeared on the popular television show Ready Steady Go. The enthusiastic response from viewers, combined with the strong radio support, helped push the single into the UK top 10 by early 1965. The band followed up with Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere, co-written by Townsend and Daltrey. The track was groundbreaking for its time, incorporating experimental guitar effects such as pick sliding, toggle switching, and feedback. It was so unconventional that Decca's US division initially rejected it. Nevertheless, the single became another UK top 10 hit, and was even chosen as the theme song for Ready Steady Go. However, as the band gained recognition, tensions among the members intensified. The chaotic lifestyle of youth, fueled by drugs and alcohol, often led to internal conflicts. One of the most serious incidents occurred in September 1965, following a tour in Denmark. Daltrey, frustrated with Keith Moon's excessive amphetamine use, got into a heated argument with him after a show and flushed his pills down the toilet. His authoritarian approach didn't sit well with the others, and Kit Lambert, unwilling to tolerate such behavior, gave him an ultimatum. He could stay in The Who only if he accepted a more democratic dynamic within the band. Though Daltrey remained, the tensions persisted, and the group frequently teetered on the brink of breaking up. Despite internal conflicts, The Who continued their momentum, releasing another single, My Generation, in October 1965. Originally written by Townsend as a slow blues, The song went through multiple revisions before evolving into a high-energy anthem featuring an iconic bass solo from Entwistle. The track incorporated unconventional elements, such as a vocal stutter, meant to mimic the speech of a mod under the influence of amphetamines, and dramatic key changes. However, critics focused on one particular line, "Hope I die before I get old." Many saw it as a rebellious threat from the younger generation, sparking controversy. Townsend quickly addressed the concerns, clarifying in interviews that the lyrics were not meant to be taken literally. Despite the uproar, My Generation became a sensation in the UK, reaching number 2 on the charts. The song served as the centerpiece for the band's debut album, released later that year. Unfortunately, the album failed to deliver a major breakthrough, largely due to a dispute between The Who and their producer, Shel Talmy. The fallout significantly hindered the band's financial success. Despite these setbacks, The Who pressed on, releasing I'm a Boy in 1966, a song about a boy forced to dress as a girl. It was initially conceived as part of a rock opera, Quads, set in a future where parents could choose their children's gender. Following the single's release, tensions within the band flared once again. This time, a heated argument with Townsend nearly led to Entwistle and Moon quitting the group. The situation was further complicated by dire financial struggles, exacerbated by costly tours and the band's habit of destroying their equipment on stage. Sensing that the group was on the verge of collapse, Kit Lambert stepped in to restore order. To unify The Who and ease financial pressure, he urged each member to contribute at least 2 songs to their next album. Entwistle took on the challenge, writing Boris the Spider and Whiskey Man, firmly establishing himself as the band's secondary songwriter. The result was a quick one, released as Happy Jack in the US, an album that climbed to number 4 on the UK charts, proving that despite their struggles, The Who were still a force to be reckoned with. In 1966, the band faced yet another challenge. The Ready Steady Go show was cancelled, signaling the decline of the MOD movement in Britain. Sensing a shift in the cultural landscape, Kit Lambert and Chris Stamp set their sights on America. The Who's conquest of the US began with a small tour in New York City, followed by a larger tour supporting Herman's Hermits. Their growing reputation was further cemented by a chaotic and unforgettable appearance on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. Despite initial concerns that American hippies might not appreciate their signature instrument-smashing performances, the band won over audiences with their electrifying live shows throughout 1967. Keith Moon, as always, stood out, not just for his drumming, but for his wild, destructive antics. His most infamous stunt took place on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, where he secretly bribed a stagehand to pack his drum kit with explosives. However, the stagehand went overboard, using 10 times the intended amount. When the explosives detonated, Moon was thrown off his drum riser, cutting his arm on a flying cymbal shard. Townsend's hair was singed, his left ear left ringing, and a studio camera and monitor were destroyed in the blast. According to Roger Daltrey, the US tour helped unify the band, temporarily putting an end to their usual quarrels and scandals. The camaraderie and excitement of the period inspired Pete Townsend to aim for something even greater. Following the release of The Who Sell Out in August 1967, Townsend began working on his most ambitious project yet, a full-fledged rock opera. The result was Tommy, 1969, a groundbreaking concept album that would go down in history as the first true rock opera. The story follows a boy named Tommy, who is rendered deaf, mute, and blind after witnessing his mother's lover kill his presumed dead father. Despite his disabilities, he discovers an extraordinary talent for pinball and ultimately defeats the town's most renowned pinball wizard. His condition is miraculously cured when a mirror, an object to which he feels an unexplained connection, is shattered. Initially met with skepticism, Tommy proved to be a massive success, selling over 200,000 copies in the US within its first 2 weeks. Critics hailed The Who as the new standard by which all other bands should be judged. The pinnacle of this success came at the legendary Woodstock Festival in 1969. Due to scheduling delays, The Who didn't take the stage until 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. As they played See Me, Feel Me, the sun began to rise, almost as if on cue. Reflecting on the moment, Entwistle later quipped, "God was our lighting man." The set concluded with Townsend hurling his guitar into the crowd. The performance was professionally recorded and later featured in the Woodstock documentary, The Old Grey Whistle Test and The Kids Are All Right, cementing The Who's status as one of the greatest live bands of all time. Tommy secured The Who's future for years to come and left a profound impact on each band member. Daltrey and Entwistle embraced a more settled lifestyle, abandoning the excesses of rock stardom to focus on their image and music. Townsend, meanwhile, became deeply influenced by the teachings of Meher Baba and grew increasingly uncomfortable with his own wealth and success. Keith Moon, in stark contrast, fully embraced the rock and roll lifestyle, spending money recklessly and solidifying his reputation as the ultimate party animal. Musically, The Who evolved from a band known primarily for singles into one of the most electrifying live acts of their time. A testament to their stage dominance came in 1970 with the release of Live at Leeds, recorded at a blistering performance in Leeds University, and widely hailed as one of the greatest live albums ever made. Later that year, Townsend conceived an ambitious follow-up to Tommy, a multimedia project titled Lifehouse, intended to symbolize the connection between artist and audience. Working from his home studio, he layered intricate synthesizer arrangements, while The Who booked London's Young Vic Theatre for a series of experimental performances. Though Townsend was enthusiastic, the rest of the band saw Lifehouse as overly complex and simply wanted to record a new album. Tensions escalated until Townsend suffered a nervous breakdown and abandoned the project. Despite the collapse of Lifehouse, the sessions yielded Who's Next, 1971, an album that catapulted The Who into superstardom, selling millions of copies and solidifying their status as one of rock's biggest acts. Yet Townsend remained obsessed with creating another conceptual masterpiece. In 1973, he delivered Quadrophenia, a sprawling rock opera about the mod subculture of early 1960s England. While the album found success in the UK, its subject matter failed to resonate widely outside Britain, preventing it from achieving the universal acclaim of Tommy. Around the same time, The Who parted ways with their longtime managers, Kit Lambert and Chris Stamp, the very men who had shaped the band's rise. The split had a significant creative impact. Their next album, The Who by Numbers, 1975, lacked the raw energy and innovation of their earlier work, reflecting Townsend's growing disillusionment with fame. Nevertheless, The Who remained the premier live act of the decade, even earning a place in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's loudest rock band. It seemed their reign would continue, if not through groundbreaking studio albums, then through their legendary concerts. However, in the late 1970s, tragedy struck, forever altering the band's fate. While his bandmates had matured, Keith Moon refused to slow down. His excessive lifestyle took a severe toll on his health, and on September 7, 1978, he died of an overdose of heminevrin, a sedative prescribed to combat his alcohol withdrawal. Just weeks earlier, The Who had released Who Are You? In a chilling coincidence, the album cover featured Moon sitting on a folding chair with the words "Not to be taken away" printed on the back, a haunting reminder of the irreplaceable drummer who had defined The Who's spirit. After Keith Moon's tragic death, the big question was, what would become of The Who? The band quickly decided to move forward, hiring Kenny Jones as their new drummer. A major tour followed the next year, but despite Jones's solid skills, it was clear that The Who had lost much of their legendary energy and signature style. In 1981, they released Face Dances, their first album with Jones behind the kit. A year later, It's Hard followed, but neither album met expectations. Although The Who continued to sell out massive venues within hours, their audiences responded most passionately to their classic material. rather than their newer songs. By early 1983, after a farewell tour, Pete Townshend, driven in part by health concerns, decided to put an end to The Who, at least for the time being. However, the band reunited several times, embarking on another legendary tour in 1989. They remained active until 2002, when the rock world suffered another devastating loss: the death of bassist John Entwistle. Yet, The Who are more than just a band. They are a phenomenon that reshaped rock music. Pioneers of the rock opera, creators of countless timeless hits, and an enduring symbol of youthful rebellion in the 60s and 70s, their influence remains undeniable. Even today, their music continues to inspire new generations of rock musicians, proving that true legends never fade.